This is everyone's favorite wrestler, Rob Van Dam. And you are watching 40K Theories.
Hello everyone, this is Remleiz and 40K Theories, and welcome to this new episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone.
And joining us as our guest this week, making their Podcastus debut, is someone who should be very familiar to you who've been following the channel for a very long period of time. Back in the old Men-at-Arms days, it's Fiaura.
Hi. How are you?
Long overdue appearance, welcome.
Well, it's been a while since I made very much involving Warhammer because I've been in other sci-fi universes, including writing my own book, which has been a task in and of itself.
I can only imagine. And also, you've also started your own Warhammer podcast as well, haven't you?
Yes. So the person who runs my tabletop games decided he wanted to do Warhammer Fantasy, and he said, do you have any experience with this? And I went, this was my first tabletop game. Of course I have experience with this. How much experience? I then proceeded to ramble at him for, I think, 6 hours. And then he went, you know, you should probably just do a podcast for this because you could ramble about this for days, it seems. Yes. So my editor, who knows nothing of Warhammer Fantasy, is listening to me ramble about things about Warhammer Fantasy, and then turn around and bombard me with questions. And I'm making sure to go over the silliest things in Warhammer Fantasy for his amusement.
Are you planning purely to run it for Old World? What I know you're saying fantasy, but what we would call in the modern game as Old World. Are you looking to expand into Sigmar at some point as well?
No, I'm not going to expand into Sigmar. I'm looking to run it into Old World because that's what I know and that's what I have fun with.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people who played fantasy didn't enjoy Sigmar and have gone back to Old World. That's totally fine.
I didn't enjoy Sigmar. I didn't enjoy the way people treated the people who were playing Age of Sigmar. I'm like, look, they're having fun. Let them have their fun. We'll go have our fun.
As one of those people, yes.
Well, for anyone interested, there'll be a link to Fiora's Warhammer Fantasy Warhammer podcast in the video description below, which I believe is called Warhammer Silliness.
Yes.
Is that right?
Because we are again looking to go over it in a humorous and the most silliest things that come up. Like, halflings killed 500,000 people over the name of pie.
Good old halflings. The Pie Wars, or was it called something else?
It was called the Pie Wars. Yeah, there's literally now, they literally had to make a council to name pastries in order to prevent future Pie Wars because it killed a lot of people.
Oh dear. Sounds like a Saturday night up in Yorkshire or something, I don't know.
As a person from Yorkshire, not quite, but sure.
Right. In the news this week,
Not a lot.
Should we start with the big thing, with the reveal of Codex Imperial Agents, which I think you might be interested in, Fiora, purely because you actually play Deathwatch, don't you?
Yeah, I played Deathwatch, but at present, I told somebody this problem, and they're like, well, you could remodel everything. I'm like, I'm not spending that much time remodeling everything. See, I modeled all of my Deathwatch troops as at the end of Arcs of Omen, where you could have stupid things, like my sergeant has a full-size combi weapon, a combat shield, and a full-size power weapon, which happens to be a Thunderhammer. That was literally a legal unit as just a random sergeant. And now I'm not very good at keeping up with my own proxies, so I know I would have to remodel every single unit I have, and I'm not looking forward to ever doing that.
That is understandable as someone who likes to do silly conversions. In fact, I should have taken a photograph of it to put into the Discord. I did a Cadre Fireblade conversion out of a Hammerhead tank crew the other day, and it was quite a faff. I was trying to find a spare pulse rifle, and then I just gave up and used a pulse carbine instead. So no, I do get that. But still, if you ever do decide that you want to take on the proxy wars, or you just fancy rolling them out for the hell of it, the Death Watch have been removed from their own codex, or the Space Marine one, and bundled into a fully developed and fleshed out Imperial Agents codex. And by fully developed and fleshed out, I mean that the Hereticus, Malleus, and Ordo Xenos all have dedicated forces for themselves. So Ordo Xenos, who are getting a battle force, have got the Death Watch and everything that comes with it, as well as the Rogue Trader and the Elysidian Star Striders and all of those things, alongside Dragon Lady from Arcs of Omen, whose name has escaped me at this time.
Yeah, I've forgotten her name as well, to be honest.
The Ordo Hereticus obviously has Inquisitor Greyfax, as well as the Adeptus Arbites, ecclesiastical priests, ministerial priests and preachers, and the Sisters of Battle are being rolled in as part of this. Obviously, we know sororities have their own book, but they're able to be used as what are called retinue units.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like an Imperial Inquisitor has a retinue, and it can be anyone that he's basically drafted.
Indeed. So, yeah, you've got assigned agents, which allows you to go into other Imperium armies. Or you've got... they're not retinue. They are requisitioned. So the Death Watch and co are your retinue units, but there is also a new requisition category, I misspoke a moment ago, which is where Battle Sister squads and their transports, as well as for the Order Malleus, the Grey Knights go. This allows a Malleus force, which includes things like the Assassins and the like, to include Grey Knights, as well as the Inquisitorial kill team that we discussed before. Which is available for all factions. In fact, that kill team is in all three of the battle forces. So you've really got lots of options for playing any of the Ordos on theme or creating a Grand Inquisitorial alliance, which I think is a really good way to make the Inquisition work, but also allow you to play Assassinorum or Death Watch or any of the flavoursome kill teams from down the years. I think it's a really good balance that they've struck.
It's an interesting one, if nothing else. I do want to say in regards to the Battle Force boxes, the vehicle choices are kind of funny, because, like, Ordo Xenos, they get the Corvus Black Star. Hereticus, they get the Immolator. Logical. Ordo Xenos, they get a Chimera. Seems a bit underwhelming.
Because the only vehicle they could nick from the Grey Knights would have either been the Storm Raven gunship or the Land Raider.
Do they not have access to rhinos?
Not with Terminators.
I suppose.
Because it says sorry, I need to cut you off. That the Terminators are the requisitioned unit, not just Grey Knights.
It just seems a bit weird to have a Chimera in that regard then, but I don't know, it just seems... I feel like something like a Repulsor would have been a better choice thematically. I know it's not really a thing anymore, but...
Yeah, it's also worth noting there isn't a unique squad for the Malleus, because Hereticus have got the Arbites, the Xenos have got the Rogue Trader team, alongside the Inquisitorial stuff and their requisition unit of Astartes or Sisters. The Malleus just have an assassin in that spot, the Culexus Assassin. You don't see for example, Calidus Assassin among the Hereticus, or a Vindicare with the Xenos. It seems like the Malleus is where the Assassinorum is at the moment.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I wonder about that.
Yeah, we'll see. It's worth noting, however, there is one new unit joining the Imperial Agents roster, and I can only ever quote Kirioth here and his video title on the subject. Look at how Games Workshop massacred my boy, because they've redone Tukmada Kotiaz, and it's awful.
It seems like that meme's like, it's like, Mummy, can we have Stormcast? No, we have Stormcast at home.
Yeah, it does look really Stormcasty. Really Stormcasty.
Yeah,
normally that's a compliment.
So I've seen the memes with this, and the big one I've seen is, oh my god, they gave him mom hips. Because he's got massive. His thigh armor is physically bigger than his shoulder armor.
God, I can't unsee that now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. Even if you ignore the armor being terrible, the pose is like boring. The Cyber Eagle's now on its own separate model when it would look far cooler flying off of him. If you want it flying, have it just flying, like, say he's got his hammer over his shoulder and you pin the eagle to the hammer. Like, think the old Kotias model who's got the eagle up in the air and the hammer over the shoulder. Keep the hammer over the shoulder thing and have the eagle flying off the hammer. Like it's Tactical Rock.
In fairness, considering it's a separate model, I imagine it's actually going to have dedicated rules. You can actually use it as a standalone model kind of thing. So that'd be I would imagine because it's a separate model. So
yeah, I'm sure there's a reason why it's a separate model, but stylistically, his face looks like it's had a massive downgrade. He looks like such a generic Timmy. It's not, and that's not good.
He now also has hair
and hair. He's got a cloak that would make bloody Trajan Valoris jealous with the amount of feathers coming off one side.
In fairness, I think the original had that kind of thing as well, in fairness.
True, but it's like because Games Workshop like adds to things generally. And normally, we should stress, we normally criticize Games Workshop for over-designing stuff. Like putting too many details and over-designing. This is, to their credit, a really stripped-back model, and that's great, but it doesn't look like power armor or artificer armor or any sort of armor you've ever seen an Inquisitor wear, because it's Stormcast armor, in a very boring pose with a honestly quite major downgrade in drip and style from the original Kotias. Because I think it's worth putting original Kotias on screen next to modern one, Rem, like so that the viewers understand just why we're dunking on this so hard.
Yeah, can you show me the original? Because I wasn't aware of the original model.
Yeah, 1 second, I'll just grab that for you. Right. There we go.
Oh God.
It's night and day, isn't it? I think the main problem with the new model is that the armor's way too smooth. It's way too bereft of detail. Because like if you look at the old one, you got like the little rivets, and you got like the engravings on the thigh, and you got the nipples. Like they shaved off his nipples. First they stole Aramin's tits, now they've stolen his.
Yeah, they've also taken away all the chiseling around the abs area. They've taken away the tabard and the cloak's gone from being over his back to over one shoulder, so it looks really lopsided.
Is it just me, or did they also take away? Because it looks like there's an extra piece on his left arm where the eagle is supposed to land.
That might just be the angle, or it's covered by the cloak.
It may be the angle, but it kind of looks like they just there's either an extra piece there, or it's just the angle of the armor. But it looks like they also took away like his falconry bracer. Because if you're going to have, like, really cool armor, you don't want your Cyber Eagle to shred the arm guard every time it takes off and lands.
No, you don't. Granted, I don't think a Cyber Eagle should really be landing and ripping its way through auramite or ceramite or whatever it's made of on every single jump, but them's the breaks.
I mean, as someone who used to have birds of prey, long story, but yeah, my ex actually kept them for a job. But regardless, like, having to actually have a falconry glove, like, it's actually hard for them to actually, like, pierce through, like, with falcons and hawks at the very least. So, if leather can withstand it, I'm sure, like, metal will be no problem.
But, yeah, they just... Good lord. His cloak is lopsided. They gave him hair. They made it where he shaved his head instead of him just being bald. They made him physically look younger because they took the wrinkles away. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to see that, yeah.
Yeah, like, normally I would be praising the Divine team for saying, you know what, you've stripped a model back, he's been through some shit, he's an Inquisitor who just goes about smashing things in the head, he doesn't need all the fancy details, and I'm fine with that, and that's worthy of praise. Where we're criticising is not, model bad boo, or under-designed and boring boo, it's completely lost its character. Like, the Kotias model was so characterful for what it was.
And this one's more generic.
Like, genuinely, if you took the rosette away and changed the head of that hammer, you could probably tell me that was a new Stormcast hero. And I'd buy it. If you shaved a few of the 40k details off, I'd buy it.
Except you wouldn't actually buy it, you just believe it.
Yes, that came out wrong.
Oh, dear. It's, yeah, not good. Well, I think that's a little unfair. I think the correct answer would be underwhelming, severely underwhelming.
Yeah, As a model, it's fine. As a replacement to the old Kotias, it is a significant downgrade.
It's Malgan Ra syndrome, because like with the old Malgan Ra, I still maintain the old Malgan Ra is much better than the new one, because the new one just looks like Reaper from Overwatch.
At least Reaper from Overwatch doesn't have a giant long rifle, he has shotguns. But I do take your point. It's also worth noting here, Grey Knights are getting a codex. They're not being rolled into agents. I know Deathwatch are, but Grey Knights are not. There is a dedicated Grey Knight codex coming out in 2025.
Yeah, I noted that and was just like, oh, okay. Some of the things that get me, though, is like the current thing I've seen released, it doesn't have some of the Deathwatch unique weapons, like, you know, the one everybody talks about, the shotgun.
Wait, really?
Not that I've seen so far. So far, it's still just long vigil weapons, unless they've put out something else with this preview. And I'm like...
It's also worth noting, if you don't want to play Inquisition, you can just play Imperial Navy.
Yeah, you can just play Imperial Navy. But one of the things I noted about the 2 data cards that we got that have the current Deathwatch rules on them, the 4 models on there are not actually legal by the rules that are printed on the same card. And I'm like, oh, fun. So it's been frustrating, to say the least, for me. So, good.
I can imagine how frustrating it must be for a Deathwatch player in general.
I've honestly haven't played 10th edition because I've been sitting here still playing 9th edition because I don't have any models for 10th edition that I have rules for. I would have thought, personally, that if you're going to release a 10th edition of something, they would have taken a step back and not done their usual routine of release the edition and then release codexes over time, but instead make it a big celebration and maybe delay a year or 2 to complete everyone's codex and release everything all at once.
I think I understand the logic from a consumer perspective why you would say that, but the problem with doing that, and I'm purely talking from a business perspective here, I guess, is if you do that, then you are basically saying this year we are not having a major release that will bump up our profits and allow us to invest into the next round of investment. Now, I know that's being cynical and being very, very businessy, but the July release, whether it's Heresy, Old World, Sigmar, or 40k, whatever it is, makes Games Workshop excessive amounts of bank. So they kind of need it to keep their profit margins where they are and say, you know, we're still being successful. We can make these investments, take on these staff. That would be the argument, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose, but I mean, from my perspective, Games Workshop doesn't need to keep making more and more profit every single year. You can have a down year and it'd be fine. But they treat it like, no, we have to get more money, and I'm always like, really? Do you really need more money?
We've got to have money.
Yeah, it's difficult. I feel like I am just playing devil's advocate to play devil's advocate. But when you've got the vultures circling of the bigger, you know, you've got we talked a lot with Pancreas No Work last episode about the smaller companies on the up and up, like Mantic and all the others. But then you've also got now Games Workshop's in a position where it's talking to people like Weta Workshop. It's talking to Amazon Prime. It's working with A-listers like Henry Cavill. And if they're not seen to be continually successful, I could see the argument from their perspective of if we don't keep this up, then one of the big guns, by which I'm talking, I guess I'm picking Disney as a sake of argument, but I could be anybody, goes, we want your IP, your profits are down, we can buy you out. And I know Games Workshop wouldn't probably ever sell out, but if they're not continuing to maintain their margins and continue to invest, then A, the big companies they want to work with might not work with them, and B, the really big companies who want to eat them, because they're now a semi-minor player who has garnered mainstream interest, will come circling. I don't know. That might be a mindset as well to consider from their perspective. I don't know.
Maybe. I think that's just a problem, and not to get overly preachy, I think that's just a problem in general when you start taking private investment, when you start selling stock, is you run the risk that someone's just going to buy you out.
Yeah.
It gets you it might get you a lot of money through investment and through through people coming in to try to keep you going, but it's not going to, in the long run, it's never been a good thing in my experience to be publicly traded.
Take your point.
In other news, we're also getting a release of a little mini board game of the Space Marine Adventures line.
Yes, this is currently only available at Target in America, but will come out later across the world in 2024. It is called Tyranid Attack. It contains 5 Space Marines, and will also contain rules for Lieutenant Titus, should you wish to include him, as his rules will be fully compatible.
Oh, so they're putting Titus into a board game finally.
Again, it'd be the second one, wouldn't it?
Again, the Space Marine board game, yeah.
Did you not see that, Fiaura?
I did not.
I'll grab a picture for you 1 second.
Yeah, that's where his mini actually comes from in the first place, is from the Space Marine board game. But how it works, you've got 5 Marines, a Blood Angel called Raphael, Lucas the Space Wolf, who is not Lucas the Trickster, don't worry, a Iron Hand, an Ultramarine, and a Salamander. And they're all push fit, which is cool. And you basically fight through Space Hulk, tiny little Space Hulk minigame, for 3 waves, and then you fight a Tyranid Prime final boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the Space Marine board game as well, Fiaura, for your pleasure.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Lieutenant Titus mini is not great.
It's very... of all the Space Marine miniatures to ever exist, it's certainly one of them.
Yes, it is certainly a Space Marine miniature.
Yes, it's I don't know that if you didn't tell me that was Titus, I would know it was Titus from just looking at him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I believe you.
The funny thing is, there was actually a better model for Titus, and that was actually from the old, I think it's the old Stern Guard veterans.
Oh?
Because there was actually one of the heads for the Stern Guard veterans was actually Titus, and another one was it Sidonus?
Sidonus was the old guy.
Yeah, Titus and Sidonus were both in that one as Easter eggs.
Oh, I had completely missed that.
Yeah, I found the image. Basically, they had like head options. But yeah, they were in there as Easter eggs. I'll put it on screen now.
Oh, nope, I'd never clocked that before.
Yeah. I think that was just more of an Easter egg more than anything else, to be honest.
It's a good Easter egg.
Yeah.
It's a very good Easter egg. But yes, so if you are wanting to pick this up, it's at Target in America and will then come out more widely at some point later this year. I apologise if I sound distracted. I'm trying to read the Chalnath Expanse story, sort of
professional,
because it's about well, it's a Shadow Sun thing, and so I think it might be worth keeping an eye on.
Fair enough. Did she get her? Did she grow her foot back? Probably
what?
Not. Did she grow her foot back? Because she lost her foot in the fight with Horatius Galactus, didn't she?
It's not mentioned, no. But while I do that, Rem, you might want to take a look at the Black Library article, which came out a couple of days ago, as to what's coming up next in the world of Black Library. Oh,
yes. We're getting a couple more new books, which is always good.
Indeed.
We're getting a sequel to, what's the name of that flying novel? Outgunned, that's it, yes.
I've read it. It was good.
Yes, that's getting a sequel called Above and Beyond. So, and since you actually read the first one, are you hoping it's going to be in the same vein, I assume? Like, with a journalist following her around kind of thing?
It seems like that's what they're going for, is whisked away to join the same propagandist is used again and sent to the same war zone. But she was already slightly,
bonkers.
Damaged. Stroke damaged.
Nutty.
By before Outgunned and doubly so during Outgunned. And now she's been sort of turned into this figurehead leader that she just isn't. So it will be interesting.
So when you say turned into this figurehead leader that isn't, are you talking like a character who clearly shouldn't be there but has to deal with it anyway, or are we talking more like a Caiaphas Cain route where they get credit for things that they probably shouldn't be getting credit for and are going a little bad? So
her family was very renowned, and she was a renowned fighter race in that area, that like war zone she was in. But whilst the events of Outgunned took place, she was like one of the sole survivors of the air battles and was idolized due to the propaganda written about her by the protagonist. Now, I'll be completely fair. I don't think he really wrote propaganda. He wrote a positive piece, fluff for the Imperium, but also she was not that person. She never was. And because of that, she was propelled to stardom by the propaganda machine. And now people look to her as this, not living legend, I think that's too strong a term, but this champion, mighty, like invincible fighter who can take on anything and win. Maybe not quite that much. I think it will remain to see how they've exactly portrayed her.
So basically, Lord Flashheart.
I suppose.
Yeah, for Blackadder goes for that
more
version.
like for a real life figure, more like Vasily Zaitsev. There was a Vasily Zaitsev, but there was not this Vasily Zaitsev of propaganda type deal.
I suppose. I think it, because the book sort of ends at the point where he's written the stories and it's then sent off and he's sort of relegated away to nothing and she goes on to status, but we never see what that status is because it's all written from the protagonist's perspective and it sort of ends there. So exactly what her rep has become is sort of not explained in Outgunned and will sort of probably be where Above and Beyond picks off.
Fair enough. We're also getting an Adeptus Mechanicus novel called Dominion Genesis, which is about the Forge World of Grifone 4 after it got attacked by High Fleet Leviathan.
Oh.
Yes.
So yeah, it's like, that'll be very interesting. I have to admit, it's like, okay. I mean, get behind this premise. Okay.
Yeah, the summary, like, underneath is quite interesting as to what they're actually trying to do. Like, go back there, find a relic, and, quote, turn back time.
Dun dun dun.
Not literally, I'm sure, but sort of allow them to return to their former glory in one fell swoop.
Yeah. Could be very interesting, but I'll tell you what is incredibly interesting. We're getting a new novel by Robbie McNiven after God knows how many years. Return of the King, ladies and gentlemen, Return of the King. With an Exorcist novel of all things.
Oh. I know a couple of my friends who will be interested in that.
Yeah.
I actually have a player for a tabletop Deathwatch game, the RPG by Fantasy Flight. He plays an exorcist.
Ooh. But yeah, this novel's called Oaths of Damnation, and it's basically about a group of exorcists trying to track down a demon that escaped and to hunt it down before its secret is revealed and the connection between it and their commander runs deeper than is assumed. Could be very interesting indeed. And because it's by Robin McNiven, it's got a very good chance of being good.
I mean, anything by The Exorcist is interesting and probably good.
Well, except for that White Dwarf article, because that was terrible. I'm sorry. They're indexed.
Okay, yeah.
Crap.
How much do we know about this concept of the broken ones?
It was basically those who failed their possession ritual, from what I can recall, and they're like, right, we're going to use you as like hosts for the demons for our possession therapy sessions going forward and lock you in the basement.
Okay, so that is something known outside of this. Isn't a new concept.
No, it was something that was established back in like at the very least it was back at the start of 9th edition. It was introduced.
Yeah, because I knew the Exorcists allowed themselves to be possessed and then were purged, or it purged itself. But I didn't recall when I did my video on the Exorcist a long time ago really knowing anything about what happened to those who failed. I assumed they were just killed.
Yeah, I had made that assumption too, that they just killed whoever failed and called it a day and not, risked running around with a anathema or a demon possessed. That doesn't seem like a good idea, looking at you, Dark Tide, every time I run into that thing. Demon Host is not fun.
If you would like to check out my video on The Exorcist, you can click the link in the top right corner. I gotta plug something somehow.
Indeed.
Look, if we don't talk about our work, it's not like people will do it for us most of the time.
That's true enough, I suppose. I just feel kind of icky promoting myself sometimes. I don't know why. Maybe it's imposter syndrome. Who knows? But, funny enough, Neve, going back to when you mentioned about Weta recently,
Yep.
Weta Workshop are actually releasing a new Warhammer statue, this time of Abaddon the Despoiler.
Yeah, and it looks freaking amazing.
It does. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% keen on the face, but it might look better in person. But aside from that, I love the pose. I think the pose is great.
Yeah, absolutely. They've clearly taken the time and done an incredible job, as you would expect. And the Talon of Horus looks grisly and ridiculous. And Draknien actually, for a sword that's just got demonic faces running through it, which is all Draknien is in sculpt, they've made it look both imposing and ethereal at the same time. Like, that thing will fuck you up, but it is clearly not of this world, without actually detracting from its original design elements, which go back, remember, to like 2nd or 3rd edition.
2nd.
Indeed.
1997, in fact.
Oh my god.
I was there when it came out.
Oh dear god. It's worth noting that there were only 700 made, and it costs $1,900.
In other words, fuck that.
In other words, fuck that.
Wait. They made 700 of these. It costs over $1,000 each.
Yeah.
Just shy of $2,000 each.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I should point out it's a 1 to 6 scale. So it's huge.
So it's about 3 foot tall.
Yeah. It is huge in fairness, so. Like, if it was like the size of like a normal Warhammer model, then fuck that.
But even at this size, fuck that. But
at that size, it's a little more justifiable. I say little, but
very little. It's worth noting that they're actually working on Saint Celestine next.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of dreading that purely because we know what her tabletop model's like. It's like, oh god, balancing all that on thin ribbons, like, oh god, no. Just tips over and shatters.
But these guys know what they're actually doing.
Yeah, that's true.
If the Abaddon model's anything to go by, yeah, they know what they're doing. How many other models have they done so far? Is this the first one?
The second one, yeah. The first one they did was Titus.
Yes, they did. I'll send that through to you in just a second. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, that's the best one. Because it's actually customizable, the Titus one, with helmet options and things like that. But I'll send that through now. So yeah, they're doing Celestine. They're also doing Skragrott the Loon King, so they're actually doing Age of Sigmar as well, which I think is cool.
That's a bold choice.
It is a bold choice, but I suppose they're very good at doing goblins because Weta Workshop did a lot of work on Lord of the Rings, so they must be very good at gobbos and the like.
They also did Black Sheep, the movie about mutant killer sheep, which is amazing.
Dear.
Have you seen that film?
No, thank God.
It's hilarious. Like, there's a bit with a were-sheep, literally like a person like transforming into like a werewolf sheep thing, and like the guy like smashes a bottle of mint sauce and it burns him like holy water. It's brilliant.
Dear God.
I mean, if you want to talk about mutant sheep, are we allowed to do any spoilers for the boys?
How long ago did that episode come out?
About 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's fine. Fuck it.
They have an episode where they find a bunch of sheep that were in that.
Wait. Sorry. No, sorry. You get what you're saying. I'm just reading something ahead for the next piece. Sorry, go on.
They have an episode where they have to escape a bunch of sheep who were given V that have flying powers and a taste for human flesh. And it's just like, it starts off with chickens that literally just rip through a man's chest, and everyone's like, did the chicken just fly through that guy's chest? Yep.
It's like a callback to the first season with the hamster.
Mm-hmm. They even show the hamster, a hamster, just her, and it just has that moment of, wait a minute, I've seen this before.
Ah, dear. I was going to say something, it's completely gone out of my bloody mind.
That's okay.
Bugger.
While you think, I'd like to talk about the new... Do you remember the Ultimate Guide to Warhammer 40,000 that we memed on a few months ago?
Vaguely, yes, I think.
Well, the official article has come out...
Oh, was that a Doyle and Kinsley one?
Yes, that one.
Yes.
Because I've just been reading it. Well, bits of it, because they've got 8 double-page spreads on an article.
Oh, right, sorry.
And I would like to draw your attention to the Dark Angels one. And you might know this information, Rem, but if you didn't, then please do tell me.
Okay.
I'm sending you the page on the Dark Angels. It's got Azrael, Lazarus, yada, yada, yada. But Lionel Johnson's section, I'm going to read it to you. After being wounded by his treacherous friend Luther during the Battle for Caliban, the Lion disappeared. Unknown to nearly all, he slumbered at the heart of the rock for millennia. Legend had it he would return at the hour of the Imperium's greatest need. After the Great Rift, this prophecy was fulfilled. The Lion awoke, gathered a force of repentant fallen to his side, and began the colossal task of saving Imperium Nihilus. I genuinely didn't know that until right now.
Yeah, that was the Risen.
Oh.
Yeah, literally, the repentant fallen are called Risen. Not exactly subtle Games Workshop, let's be honest. They've fallen, now they've risen.
Yeah, sorry, I've always been trying to think in my head of like, what the hell are they doing to square the circle of Lion's back and still got the Fallen issue? I've been trying to square that. Obviously, we've been trying to talk about that for a while. Like, how the hell are they going to do with it? And we'll see what the Dark Angels Codex actually... I can't remember what the Dark Angels Codex even did to square that problem.
Not much, probably, I don't think. Other than the fact that they had the Inner Circle Guardians, who are blatantly just members of the Risen. So, like, oh yeah, Asmodee's going to have a bodyguard of Inner Circle Guardians. Like, yeah, imagine how much Asmodee's going to fucking freak out when he learns that his bodyguards are fallen. He's going to blow his brain out.
Yeah.
God, it's going to be like the first episode of Gen V. If you know, you know. So, like...
Yeah, okay, apologies for being an idiot.
Hey. We all make dumb mistakes. There's no need to call you an idiot. I'm dumb sometimes, too.
So is this guide purely on the model side of things, or?
No. Yeah, no.
You know.
So it's written by Guy Haley and Gav Thorpe, primarily.
Okay.
And it does mostly work around point at models and talk about them. But it does have some history. So, for example, the Forces of Chaos were fully introduced by the Realm of Chaos volumes in the late 1980s, Slaves to Darkness and the Lost of the Damned. So there is a little bit of history. And in the Chaos section, you can see the new models for Abaddon, Typhus, and the original Traitor Legions, but also their old models too. So there's a little bit of history tied up in there too, about how things have changed.
Do you know what the layout reminds me of, somewhat? Do you remember the old... I don't know if you're going to be too young for this, Neve, but do you remember the old Eyewitness books?
No.
And they were like children's science book type things, and it has a very similar layout.
Oh no! I remember these. We had them in our school library. They were like.
Oh, actually no. I do recognize that. Sorry, I just didn't remember the title. Yeah,
because there was like a TV series as well. Where, like the American version was hosted by Martin Sheen. Yeah, random fact for the day. There you go. The Eyewitness TV series in America was voiced by Martin Sheen and some random English guy for the English version. I've forgotten his name. But yeah.
But no, it's interestingly done. Like the majority of it is like in-universe lore, but then there's a few bits that seem to be, external history, just occasionally. But there's some Heresy era references. There's a nice mix of stuff. A lot of it's staying within universe, but yeah, kind of cool.
Fair enough. What else do we have in the news? Not too much. I know we got some dwarves for Warhammer Fantasy.
The reason we don't have a lot in the news is because Gen Con's this weekend. And there's probably going to be an announcement this weekend for Gen Con. Or a few.
They haven't actually talked about Gen Con anywhere in the... Like, they normally, when they're doing reveals at something, they usually say, oh, be sure to tune in on this date because we're at this event and we're going to be showing things off. And they haven't actually done that. And they
Which is kind of weird because I showed a miniature earlier. I'm actually entering that into the Gen Con painting contest.
Oh, cool. Good luck.
But the painting contest is sponsored by Reaper and Games Workshop. So I'm like, wait a minute. They haven't revealed anything, but they're sponsoring the painting contest. Hold on.
It's a bit weird. But maybe.
Slight tangent. Speaking of conventions and reveals, because, it's like San Diego Comic-Con and all that. Someone spotted that there was Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered branding on display. Yes, please. I love Soul Reaver. Give it to me.
That's a reference I don't really know.
You even got me with that one, Rem. I'm sorry.
You're both missing out. But anyway, as you were saying, Neve.
One little bit of extra news. Boarding Patrol and Boarding Actions has been rebooted for 10th edition. Like the rules in Arcs of Omen were designed to be 10th compatible, but they've actually properly updated Boarding Actions now with new detachments and everything. and updated rules, updated missions, etc. So if you enjoyed boarding actions, you can now do it properly.
Well, there you go.
All right, then. That's actually kind of nice. Yes, I do enjoy doing boarding action missions.
Yeah, they're 500 points. So, for example, Genestealer cults have 2 different boarding patrols they can play, which are a bit more like force organization type thing, where you can have 1 Magus or Primus, 2 sub-heroes with no duplicates, up to 3 hybrid units and 1 flamer unit, for example. So you're very much limited in what you can take.
Fair enough. Right. Have you read through that Chalnath story yet?
Yeah, it was actually basically a bit boring. But the base principle is... Well, the base principle is they're focused on this world, Volcus, which I believe is the story that's introduced in the first Chalnath book, as well as the sort of ambassadors being visited by the Watercast. And it's the sort of Elemental Council, Shadow Sun, Ethereal, and various others discussing what we're going to do about it. They have some sort of weapon that renders the Corvatra next to useless. Their Watercast have gotten 10 shades of buttfuck nowhere. The Earthcast have some tech that will help the Aircast, but nowhere near enough. And they will not be able to muster enough Firecast to take it by brute force because they're dealing with Orcs and Genestealers and other places and other things. So Shadow Sun's basically saying, you know what? We're going to be the prey in a patient hunter. We're going to walk right in to a trap, and we know we're going to go in there, and we know it's going to suck ass, but we know what we're going to do. We know we're walking in, and the prey may become the predator if it is prepared. We're going to disable this weapon so that the Aircast can work at full operating capacity, and the Firecast can then work at full operating capacity. End of story.
Oh, fair enough. So just basically setting the scene, essentially.
Yeah, it's sort of setting up whatever they're doing next. That they're going to want to do some sort of stealth-related missions. It might indicate sort of small-scale games, maybe kill team expansion, maybe... I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I wouldn't expect to see huge forces being mustered. You might expect if they do a Tau battle box for this, let's say, you'd probably expect to see it contain Pathfinders, stealth suits, that sort of unit.
Oh, fair enough.
Either way, the other thing that you mentioned about dwarves, not a lot to say. They've just sort of gone through the miniatures that are coming out. So you've got the Dwarf Lord with shield bearers, the Dwarf Thane with a handgun, Ungrim Iron Fist, and then the Return of the Dragon Company, the Goblin Hewer, and a few other bits. So actually there's nothing new in there. It's just reminding people of what's coming out for the Dwarven holds.
Okay, fair enough.
But they haven't actually shown... Have they shown the models yet?
Yeah, it's all in this article. They've shown them off a few weeks ago. But I'll copy the article across to you now and you can have a look through.
I'm sorry, but my primary army for fantasy is dwarves, and I'm like, ooh, wait a minute, I missed something.
Yes, they're getting old world almanacs to allow them to be played in full. I've not going to go through the rules articles and all of that. I'll let you do that on your own time, but there is a rules article knocking around. So you can have a flick through at your own leisure. While you flick through and have a look at the dwarves, I know we don't talk about Warhammer Plus here, but they are doing a new animation called The Tithes, which appears to be sort of...
from what people have said, apparently it actually looks very promising. It's like a little anthology series kind of thing.
Yes, so you've got a pair of Space Marines trying to... it's also got a person coming back from a previous animation from Pariah Nexus, apparently. Sort of what the Space Marines have to pay almost, not like tithes, but their own sacrifices. So it might be gene seed, for example, or whatever. I don't know. Tithe. Indeed. Harvest and bullets. So I'm assuming what happens when you do pay and what happens when you don't.
Maybe it's also just what name of one show. Sacrifice Harvest Bullets.
Indeed. I know we don't normally talk about it much, but you know, it's a new animation. It's probably going to be very good. It's just stuck behind a fucking paywall.
Again, from what I've heard from people, a lot of people are they're actually optimistic about this, which is a good sign. If people are optimistic about animation, that's always a good sign. But you got to be careful about overhype, obviously. You know, temper expectations.
Yeah, but let's be fair.
You know, hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be as good as people hope.
Well, yeah, let's be fair. Let's think of the people of the animations that have been made. Like, Games Workshop has scooped up some extremely good people. People like Astartes, Angels of Death, and obviously they've got their own in-house people as well.
But here's the thing with the people they've scooped up. It's been 2, almost 3 years, and they've done very little with them. So we're wondering, like, all right, what are you doing? If anything. And then for me also, there was the incident with Sodaz where they basically bought his 40K animation and then ghosted him entirely.
We're aware that there have been some rather shady practices going on in the background, but all I meant by it is that the talent that is present within the studios is there, and you would expect them to be very good at their jobs.
But as of yet, like, I'm gonna be honest here, they haven't given me anything that's really worth me paying for the subscription service.
Oh God, no! I would never buy in. I'm not buying in.
Fiaura, you actually used to be subscribed, didn't you?
No, I'm gonna be entirely honest with you. They are very bad at their anti-piracy stuff, and it was available on public websites like YouTube and Dailymotion for almost 2 years straight. Oh. Every single thing on Warhammer Plus was just freely available if you just searched YouTube, and I'm like, this is dumb. I'm literally playing I'm literally playing a Hammer and Bolter episode on a YouTube channel. No questions asked. And no one has flagged it.
Oh.
So, like, they were incredibly terrible at any form of IP management regarding their new animations for almost 2 straight years. Thankfully, that stuff has now been taken down, but it meant that, like, most of the people I know who saw it watched it on YouTube for free.
Well then.
I'm not advocating piracy, by the way. I'm just commenting on how bad the corporation was at actually policing their own IP. To the point that literally it was the weirdest, most surreal thing for me to come into, like, to wake up in the morning and look at my own Discord server. It has over 700 people by that point, and we're working towards 8. But the point is, I came in and there was just a group of 20 people in the in the Warhammer tabletop room streaming Hammer and Bolter via YouTube. And I'm like, guys, I can't actually ordain piracy, but I'm not sure if this is piracy or you're just using what's publicly available. So I let them do it the one time and then told them, don't ever do this again. But yeah, it's that's how things have been with Warhammer Plus as far as my experience with it has been. I even did a review on it because, like, why not? And I actually paid the money to do the review straight from the source, and was very disappointed with what I got.
Fair enough.
You both got quiet. I think I said something and you're both upset.
No, you're fine.
No, you're good.
I think there's a bit of dropout as well, so I think that doesn't help matters. I blame the humidity.
It's all good. Yeah, I apologise. I said I was going to go away and read Death Welder, the Catacan novel, and I just didn't. Didn't get the time because I went on a mad week of hobby. Like, genuinely, I went crazy with the amount of hobby I got done between the last episode and this one. If you've seen some of my social media, you might be aware I painted up a small little sub-force of Tau in a completely different colour scheme because I was given back a donation of models from a former Warhammer Club student who'd been given a start by me and a member of staff and then gone and got their own stuff, but then left school, left the hobby, and brought the stuff back through one of their friends to give to club. So I had this set of Tau that were completely different to my normal ones, and I also have my Ethereal, and my Ethereal is not going in my Farsight Enclaves army because I got the Invocation of the Elements. So I decided to paint them in a completely different way for funsies, and I got inspired by the sort of logic of Roman emperors and things like that. So I painted the Ethereal in the style of like a Roman senator type, lots like purple armor, white robes type thing. And then I got the clever idea of nicking my old Earth Shaper drone that I'm kit bashed for Commander Brightsword, turning that into my Ethereal Shield drone, as well as looking like it's got a Lord Hailer, and super gluing it to the base using a flying stand, because drones are not, they're just tokens now, so you can just put it on the base to save space. And I made that up, and then I got to thinking, okay, I like this now. What would the Imperial Guard around this ethereal look like? And it just went from there. I stuck to the purple armor. I used a lot of gold trim and things like that. And between my Piranha, which is an old school model of mine, their broadside, their commander, their fire warriors, and then a bunch of Kroot that I got secondhand that I had laying around, I was able, and my new Krutox and that I got, I was able to make up a really unique, like, Roman Emperor and Imperial Guard style concept army at 1,000 points. And I was really, like, I did it all in a week.
Fair enough. Looks pretty good.
And that's no washes, no highlights, no nothing. That's just base coated. So, yeah.
Was it primed?
No. Well, actually, no. It was primed because they'd already painted it. I painted over. So
fair
you
enough.
can consider it primed that way.
Yeah. Because, you know, I'm
it
still
was primed
gonna
in the sense of, yeah.
You know I'm still going to rib on you for not priming your models.
Yeah, I know. And you will also know that I don't care.
I would rip on you for that too, but that's me.
Yeah, it's
God, you say it was art you painted over, and I went. You didn't strip it first. You just painted straight over.
Yeah, because A, time, B, effort. C, it only had one coat of paint on it.
Okay, C is C. I can kind of get behind, and you could technically use the previous paint job as a form of primer. I just wow. I'm reminded of an old box knot that I got, metal box knot that somebody had that they were going to throw away, and I was like, dude, this is from like 2001. I'll take it. And I had to strip it, but in order to at the time I lived in Arizona, in order to strip it, that meant that I would have to sit it outside. So we had to get a very specific chemical that was let's just say hazardous in order to strip it. But I did get it stripped and did get it repainted. And let me look through my phone here, and I might be able to find the picture afterwards because it was a while ago. But yeah, that was a fun experience of let's strip something that's ancient and then put it back together the dumbest way possible. Because in Arizona, it doesn't have your humidity, that's fair, but it is over 120 degrees during the summer.
Yeah.
But at least it's a dry though.
So this is what he turned out to look like.
Big boxy boy.
Very impressive.
Big boxy boy, and then I realized that I'd made a mistake when I said, he's a lamenter. Oh no, I have to paint that by hand.
Freehanding checkers.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be honest, I didn't entirely freehand it. I might have done a little extra work there, and that is I took a Sharpie and a ruler, and I lined it off first.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, painting with a ruler makes total sense in this scenario. Use a ruler.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will have a go at you for doing that, yeah.
Yeah, this is the one reason why I will never play Harlequins, because I actually like the Harlequins models quite a lot, but I will never, ever play Harlequins.
That reminds me, years and years ago, Issue of White Dwarf, showcasing a staff member's Warhammer Fantasy army, he had wood elves, and his wood elves, like he had his war dancers, but he gave all of his war dancers tartan trousers, and he free-handed the tartan.
Oh my god.
I was like, you fucking insane. Free-handing tartan.
Like, I get doing heavy detail, but why? Why would you do that to yourself?
To show off, I imagine. But yeah, in fact, it looked really good. But it was just, ugh.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure it looked amazing, but also that.
How to make your model look good while simultaneously hating yourself. I'm going to paint freehand tartan.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Oh, slight, different topic. I recently got my limited edition copy of the Morhanval model, or Morvenval, how you pronounce the name. I can never get it pronounced right. I've not read the novel yet, so this isn't a spoiler warning. Don't worry. But I was going through the bonus book that came in the limited edition, the Book of Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some interesting stuff in it. Like, obviously, you got your prayers and your litanies and all that. But there's actually like an actual hymn in there that has accompanying sheet music.
Oh
God.
Yeah. And it's like, okay.
I mean, I can read sheet music in treble and bass clef anyway.
Yeah, I'll I'll send you a picture later because it's in a different room right now. So I'll send you a picture later.
Yeah, that's fine.
But like, yeah, it's got sheet music like in time with like the lyrics of the hymn and all that, which is pretty cool. So I might have to commission someone to actually try and record that as an actual song down the line.
That would be really epic.
It would, yeah. And also going through, it's also got a list of saints because the limited edition came with these little tarot cards with images of saints on them.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the saints you got mentioned in the book, obvious ones, you got like Saint Celestine, you got Saint Sebastian Thor, makes sense. Saint Gestalt, the Saint of Cadia. Ephrael Sturm, which was kind of surprising, but she's known as the Heretic Saint. I'll allow it. Marnius Calgar. Huh?
I know the Primarchs technically got sanctified, but Marnius fucking Calgar,
Marnius Calgar is a, quote, controversial saint. And the reason he's controversial, quote unquote, is because he has been deemed a man-made saint.
Oh.
Well, so are the Primarchs.
No. The Primarchs are Emperor-made saints. The God Emperor made the Primarchs, therefore it's fine. But Marnius Calgar became a saint because of Nakman Gauntlet, and after crossing the Rubicon Primaris, he was a man-made saint. And that's why he's a controversial choice. Though in fairness, Saint Calgar does have a nice ring to it. And I've dropped out.
I guess.
Oh,
No, sorry.
No, you haven't.
Right, you have to excuse me a minute. I can hear the baby. Excuse me a bit.
Oh, take your time. But yeah, aside from that, I've not actually read through the Morven Val story yet, purely because I've not had time. Plus, I'm still reading through Depth of Integrity. I will finish this book at some point, I swear.
You swear?
It's just, I swear. I swear, I do declare. I swear, I do declare I will finish this book. I have no idea what accent that was, so I apologize.
So, I have taken on a project I'm not sure I will ever finish.
Oh, what's that?
Someone found a Forge World Leviathan pattern dreadnought, handed it to me and said, "Can you save this?" To be fair, it was poorly painted, and one of the pieces had clearly been left out in the sun, so the resin had gotten soft.
Yeah.
So I have started trying to put it back together, and then trying to figure out, okay, once I do get it back together, what do I do about the missing parts? A friend of mine actually got a hold of the entire, because it leaked. It leaked in 2021, but they still have the entire Forge World FTL catalog for 3D printing.
Oh, shit.
So now I've got to figure out which parts need to be replaced, i.e. which ones are warped, which ones are bent, and which ones are cracked that need to be replaced in order for me to finish salvaging it, and then figure out, okay, now what do I want to paint it? I have stripped it. It is stripped down, so that's the first step, and the next step is just to sit there and shift through it. But somebody did find one for me, and as soon as I've got all of the parts in place, I'm going to probably paint that on stream.
Fair enough. Is it one of the more generic Leviathans, or is it like a Legion-specific one?
It's a Legion-specific. It's an Iron Hands Leviathan Dreadnought with the quad autocannons.
Oh, nice.
It was just nice to be just like, okay. He's like, I can't save this, can you? Sure. I'll take a Leviathan Dreadnought. I have no idea what I'm going to use it for, because I don't know if we still have rules for it, but cool. Make a great 30k army.
Definitely. Right. While Neve's still dealing with the baby, have you been reading anything as of late, out of curiosity?
Let's see. 40k wise, I have read... I'm actually opening Audible to remind me what all I've read. I have read Sandy Mitchell's Vainglorious and Choose Your Enemies for the Caiaphas Cain series.
Mm-hmm.
And I have reread and caught myself up to book 10 of Felix and Gotrek.
Oh, nice.
I had to remind myself one of the reasons I really like that duo is because the very first thing that happens in the very first book is Gotrek breaks a guy's jaw.
Ha! Nice.
For, being a general Wazik, as he puts it, in the bar while they're waiting on the other Slayer to show up who sent him a letter. And I am genuinely always surprised that Snorri over there can even read, much less write a letter. I'm pretty sure somebody wrote it for him.
God love Go Dragon Felix.
I also introduced one of my friends to The Infinite and the Divine, because that's a novel you can read without context for 40k and not only get but have a good time. Have you read the Infinite and Divine?
I haven't, but I know Neve has.
Okay. First, it is one of the funniest things in 40k, just to have these two basically old men who can't die repeatedly try to get this MacGuffin from each other through the entire novel. It is genuinely just a good time.
I've heard good things about the book, but at the same time, that also makes me kind of reluctant to read it, because like it's been hyped up so much. It's like,
Okay.
I know if I read it, it's not gonna hit the hype that everyone promises. You know,
There are two 40k authors who I will read anything they write. One is Dan Abnett, and the other is Robert Pratt, and Robert is the one who wrote this one, or Robert Rath.
yeah. Because I read his book, Fall of Cadia, and I'll be honest, I wasn't too impressed by it. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it was a perfectly enjoyable novel, but there were just so many mistakes in it that made me go like, no, that's not how no, kind of thing.
I can understand that.
I know, like, you know, it's probably me being very, very nitpicky, but like, yeah, it's my job to be nitpicky when it comes to.
I mean, we review things. It's our job to be very nitpicky about things. I'm sitting here writing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Writing this Fallout TV show review, and it's 46 pages.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's going to be a 3-hour video easily. I haven't been editing. I haven't recorded it yet because I've been waiting to have both stable internet and the time to sit down. And I was supposed to publish it at the end of last month, and it didn't get done because the internet was out. And I hadn't been able to get any of the clips from the show. And over here, I've been catching up on all my other projects, so I haven't had the time to sit down and just be like, okay, I'm going to now record this and go get all the clips.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're reviewers. We're supposed to be pedantic about things. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, while we're still waiting for Neve, I guess I can talk a little bit more about Death of Integrity. There will be no spoiler review, or spoiler warning rather, because this is a book. Of course, this is a book. What the fuck am I saying? This book is fairly old now, so no spoiler warning needed. The grace period's long gone. I think it came out in like 6th edition. So, yeah. So, last time on Death of Integrity, the Adeptus Mechanicus rocked up saying, no, you can't blow up that space hulk, we want the tech on it, and the High Lord said we could have it. So the tech priests board the Marines Errant flagship. It's like, yeah, we got permission from the High Lords to claim this, and because, you know, we're the Adeptus Mechanicus, anything involving archaeotech, we get the final say, but here's the documentation from the High Lords. And Cadus, the chapter master of the Blood Drinkers, he looks at it and goes, hang on, it's signed by this High Lord. Yes, it is. He died over 150 years ago. Yes, he did. We've been looking for the Space Hulk a very long time. Seems legit. Okay. But, yeah, what's in it for us for helping you? Is like, well, you've been drafted, so you have to help us regardless. High Lord say so. But, yeah.
We're Space Marines. No, that's not how this works.
But the Adeptus Mechanicus turn around and say, like, if you help us with this, as a reward, we will give both of your chapter fleets a brand new chapter battle barge. A brand new battle barge. It's like, seems pretty good, but Marine 7, they're about to lose one of their battle barges because it can't make any warp jumps if it tries. It will blow up, so they'll gain a ship and lose a ship. It's not bloody worth it. So the Mechanicus go, well, I'll tell you what, how about we'll fix your ship and give you a brand new one at the same time? Net gain. Space Marines look at each other like, you know what, that's actually not too bad a deal, all things considered. Alright, fine, we'll do it. So the Adeptus Mechanicus bring out this little holographic projector to set up to project a map of the Space Hulk. And they're going like, look how fancy this hologram is. It's like the most pristine image you'll ever get of the Space Hulk. Look, you can almost reach out and touch it. And the spaceman's like, yes, we know how holograms work. Shut up, we're not simpletons. And Mechanicus like, oh yes, right. First thing we need to do, we need to map the Space Hulk interior. So to do this, we're going to have a bunch of people set some like echolocation explosives on the surface, but we also need a team to go inside to set off an explosive inside as well to map the interior. So we can get, echolocation, bounce it off the walls, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, but that's bound to wake up all the Gene Stealers on board. Yeah, but if you're just in and out, you shouldn't have any issues, should you? Seems a bit sus, but fine, we'll do it. Oh, and by the way, I need to set off in this specific location that's known to have extremely high levels of radiation, so it has to be Terminator Marines. No power armor Marines at all, just Terminators. Oh, dear. Right, okay, well...
Being more suspicious now.
Yeah. But they make the preparations, and they they prepare their squads and all that, and the Marines Errant and the Blood Drinkers go inside the Space Hulk. Two teams of Terminators. So they wander. They make their way inside the Hulk. Through the treacherous corridors and all that. Little echolocation things and all that. But it's like, where am I going? Where am I going? Over here. Over here. Okay. Right. Where do we need to put this machine down? We need to put it down right about here. Okay, we'll put it down. Okay. Set off the explosives on the surface. Boom, 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 boom. And then the machine on the inside starts ringing like a bell. Starts going bong, 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 like really loudly, making the ground shake and all that. And the spaceman's like, what the fuck? Turn that thing off immediately, because you're going to wake up every single Gene Stealer within 5 kilometers. And it's like, oh, am I? I didn't realize that. I was like, listen here, you little shit. You just put us all in danger. I was like, whoops, never mind.
This sounds like typical Mechanicus incompetence mixed with the Space Marines being, I don't want to take any nonsense, and then you put them together and say, okay, let the nonsense ensue.
Wacky hijinks, waka waka.
Wacky hijinks, in which, only 1,000 people might get murdered.
Yeah. Well, there's only about, 12 of them, but yeah. Same point applies, though. Gene Stealers wake up. What a surprise. Big battle ensues. The Gene Stealers that have awoken, they all get wiped out. One Space Marine dies. One gets badly injured. One gets trapped behind rubble because there's a Hulk quake, shifting the matter of the Hulk, so they can't go back the way they came. They have to find another way out now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh dear. And you still got one Marine Errant right at the entry point acting as the vanguard. It's like, I wish I could go and fight things. I'm just bored stuck here. But they have to navigate their way through to find another way out. And this takes them right to the heart of this big reactor, which is right outside this ship. So they go inside this ship and they open the shutters for the viewing port or whatever. And they see the reactor, and it's literally covered head to toe in Gene Stealers all sleeping on it because it's warm, you see. So it's like, oh, that's a lot of Gene Stealers. We can't fight that many because there's literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, and there's only 9 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to try and sneak past. Can we sneak past them? It's like, if we go through this crashed Eldari ship that's fused with a space hulk, we can make our way through there past the reactor, no problem. There's no gravity in the Eldari ship, so they'll have to monkey bars their way across, through Wraithbone or whatever. Yeah, in Terminator armor. Imagine that.
No, but continue.
Bear in mind, there's no gravity inside there, so there is some weightlessness that's using it to monkey bar to pull themselves across because they can't walk across. But one of the Wraithbone things snaps, and one of the Terminators goes flying, hits a wall, bang. Oh shit, we've just woken up every single Gene Stealer nesting on side of that reactor, and they're all coming after us. We need to go, 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 go. So they're moving as fast as they can towards the exit, and the way they need to go through, there's a door, and it's locked. The Forge Master, who's accompanied the Space Marines on this mission, he's trying to open the door. It's like, I can't open the door from this side. I can only open it on the other side, and the only way through is through this little ventilation shaft, which is too small for a Terminator to fit through. So what do we do? Well, I'm going to take off my armor, get naked, and squeeze through. What?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. They remove his armor, they remove his servo harness, so he can climb through the ventilation shaft to get to the other side.
They forget about the radiation part.
No, they remember that. It's like, there's radiation, you will die. It's like, don't worry, I have the mucranoid organ. Now it'll protect me from extreme heat for a time. And one of the blood drinkers is like, yeah, I'll go with you. What do you mean you'll go with me? Well, you need protection just in case someone, attacks you on the other side. So they give him like a storm bolt from a Terminator suit, and one of the Marines errants goes, right, I'm coming with you as well. He takes off his Terminator armor, and they give him a pair of lightning claws from one of the blood drinkers. It's like, okay, so you got naked Space Marine with nothing but a pair of lightning claws.
Okay, so we just wanted to have naked Space Marines crawling through a tight space, all greased up.
Yeah, grease me up, woman.
It reminds me of that comic with the custodians. Do we have any grease?
Like I say, this was a really interesting time to walk back in on the conversation.
So yeah, the Forge Master and the two Space Marines, they crawl through this the ventilation shaft, while the other Space Marines are like forming a phalanx to shoot down every single gene stealer coming their way. Forge Master starts hacking the computers, like, I can't get the door open, and bloody hell, it's really hot. And the Blood Drinker's like, oh no, it's great, it's just like home. Because the Blood Drinker's home world is volcanic, so he's loving it.
Well, everything has its perks.
Yeah. The two naked Space Marines end up getting killed by Gene Stealers, obviously, but the Blood Drinker ends up like tearing the throat out of a Gene Stealer with his teeth before he does so, obviously. It's a Blood Angel.
Stay classy.
Yeah, stay classy. And the Forge Master of the Marines area is still hacking through. Like, I can't get through. Then a door just suddenly opens on its own. It's like, oh, okay, let's go. And like there's ventilation venting to the surface, and elsewhere prior to this happening, the Marines errant and the Blood Drinkers lose contact with the team beforehand, and it's like, right, send some Thunderhawks circling around the surface to do an emergency extraction just in case. And one of these Thunderhawks ends up finding where the emergency vent comes from. It's like, oh, briefly got teleport home. I've lost it, but I briefly had it. They're going to come out from there. Okay, go, get them out. And they get the Space Marines out. They take them back to the flagship. So they're like, okay, we mapped the interior of the Hulk, so it's fine. I'm going to beat the little living shit out of this Mechanicus guy for not telling me that it was going to set off a massive fucking bell that was going to cause a bloody earthquake. Yeah, the little shit. But that's an argument for another time. Later, the Forge Master wakes up in the infirmary in the Apothecarian, badly injured because, intense radiation burns.
Yeah, no shit.
Acute radiation poisoning, just Tuesday for a Space Marine, it's fine.
Just Tuesday, yeah, exactly. And he's basically told, right, you've been told by the Master of the Apothecarian you have to stay in bed for the next 2 days. I really should be helping with the Terminator armor repairs. No, you're staying in bed. You can't even see at the moment. You got a bandage over your face. You got to protect your eyes. Fine. Oh, but Captain Galt, yes, there's something you should know. What? Well, one, the Mechanicus are after something in the Hulk. Yeah, we know that. No, you don't understand. They're after something possibly very dangerous. Yeah, we know that.
Oh, God.
So, what do you mean? It's like, well, I couldn't open that door. Yes, you did. You just underestimate your own skill. No, I couldn't open that door. But when I was plugged into the cogitator, I felt the presence of something else, and it was something else that opened the door.
Oh dear. Why do I hear the word AI ringing in my head?
What?
And I believe the Mechanicus are, whatever they're looking for, it's tied to whatever was in the systems.
So you asked about novels, not short stories. I've read a lot of short stories recently. This reminds me of the short story Refuge. Which is a Warhammer horror story from I think Chronicle Edition 2. They have the astropath leads them, or not, navigator. Sorry, brain. Will you turn on today? No, okay,
that's right.
It's all good.
The navigator keeps thinking I will follow the light to get to Refuge, and it leads to a place called Refuge Station. And Refuge Station, as it turns out, to make the story a little short for everybody, Refuge Station slowly picks them off by driving them insane by playing on their deepest fears, and it turns out that the thing at the actual heart of the station that the Mechanicus person at the start was after is a power reactor that has enslaved a demon prince to be its point of power. But the demon prince isn't there against its will. at this point. He's there voluntarily because he's realized that he can lure ships here and eat the souls of those who come.
Makes sense.
A few at a time, and the Imperium is never going to do anything about him because he's on a long forgotten, long dead station. But the station's like this unique, I think it said Jupiter 3 or Jupiter something pattern station that's really rare, archaic, and not made anymore. So he's got Mechanicus, there's corpses everywhere from over 1,000 years of time. And it's just one of these things where I'm like, oh. So, to me, I'm like, maybe AI, but my brain screams demon.
It could be either or, to be honest. Who knows? We'll find out at a later time. But yes, that's basically where I've gotten to at the moment.
Okay.
I'm sorry you missed most of the conversation, Eva. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I could hear the baby crying, and she was hungry and needed changing before bed, so I just thought I'm just going to go down and help
Fair enough.
get her sorted for bed. And then she's having a bottle now. I'm going to wrap this up. We'll wrap this up in our own pace, of course. And then I will go down and assist with that because it's the last day of the school year today for me. We finally broke up for summer holidays, so
Fair enough.
we're a week later than most actual schools in the UK. A lot of schools break up a week earlier than us, but we have like a different thing around half term that allows us to do 5 weeks of summer instead of 6. So whatever. But that's fine.
Most of my reading has been Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer Old World for Warhammer stuff recently.
Totally fair. Have you read the Bretonnian novel that they paired up with the release of Old World? I've forgotten its name now.
Nope.
Lords of the Lance.
It is on the list, but it is not very high on the list. I think.
Fair enough.
No, most of this is me refreshing myself and getting ready because the person who runs the Wednesday night tabletop game is going to be running the Warhammer Fantasy RPG game for us in December. I started sign-ups last week and got my own character done, but that's just been like, okay, I need to make sure that I know everything about this world because Moon doesn't know a ton, but Moon has a very good idea of what he wants to do and what he wants to play with. So I need to make sure I get him that material, and at the same time I refresh myself so I don't start making random, what you would call, I guess, breaks of the lore, but at the same time, it's a tabletop game. You expect it to start out like Lord of the Rings, and it ends up like Monty Python.
Yeah, I take your point.
Run away! Man, my internet connection is going absolutely bonkers today. Or at the very least Discord is. I'm blaming the humidity for this. Because where I am currently, it's 91% humidity.
I would
Jesus. I don't think it's that bad
blame
here.
Discord, personally, because it was having trouble yesterday. When I was streaming, it was just having trouble where I was sitting there and people who were sitting in the call with me would randomly disconnect.
Ugh. Typical Discord, eh?
Typical Discord.
Shall we do some questions?
Why
Hit
not?
me, make it hurt.
Let's spice it up.
Say again, sorry, Fiaura?
I said hit me, make it hurt.
Oh dear.
Hit me with your rhythm stick.
Right.
I once knew someone who thought the song was saying hit me with your walking stick for some reason. I don't know why.
God.
Yeah. No,
right. There aren't really that many questions on here. There's a lot of comments, but not that many questions. Let's see what I can find. So there's a couple of questions. I'll happily fire them off. The first one's relating to Night Lords, so I think this might be a good one for you, Rem. Because it asked regarding the Talos trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Talos was seen as a threat to Craftworld Ulthwé. Why were the Night Lords of all the legions made out to be this big threat to this one specific Craftworld? What was the deal there?
I think by the end of it, it was less Talos, and it was more his quote-unquote son, Decimus.
But why?
To be honest, I think it was... If I recall correctly, I think it was somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because Ulthwé got wind through one of their Farseer prophecies, the Night Lord's going to wreak havoc on Ulthwé. So there's a big fight involving the Night Lords and Jane Zar. Jane Zar ends up killing most of the Night Lords present, in Talos' group, in First Claw. But Talos' genes ends get implanted into Decimus, and he's like, kind of like, right, I'm going to lead a campaign against Ulfway. So it feels like a form of self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing, if I recall correctly. It's been a very long time since I read the ADB trilogy.
That's fair. Okay. The other question is a bit more of a wider point. How could Tyranid stories be improved upon?
Given to a
The commenter
writer.
doesn't expand.
Can I answer this?
Please do.
Sure.
I think that some of the best Tyranid stories I've read have never been from the perspective of the Tyranid. Look, it's a cool perspective and everything, but it's like trying to write an aliens, like xenomorph novel from the perspective of the xenomorph. There's only so much you can do. What I think you could really do to improve a Tyranid novel is at first, and this is kind of important, don't reveal it's a Tyranid. It's a Tyranid-focused novel to start with. Make it a mysterious enemy that the protagonists are trying to figure out what it is. And we, the audience, are also not clued in. And the other part I think you should be doing for a Tyranid novel is you should be writing it to as a horror piece. It should be a novel in which the audience is set on the edge and is constantly scared of what is to come.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds an interesting concept. The only problem is how do you keep the mystery? Because no respect to Black Library writers, but trying to paint a unknown alien threat when we all know the Tyranid's MO is eat everything. And I know they've got sub-creatures. Like, you could probably do that with a lictor, sort of playing the role of a xenomorph.
You could do it with a lictor. You could do it with an Arbites hunting a Gene Stealer cult, but he doesn't know it's a Gene Stealer cult. You could also do it with the regular Imperial Guard troopers, but instead of, saying it's a Tyranid, it's a smaller scale squad. And it's kind of like, have you ever read the novel 15 Hours?
I'm aware of it in detail, but never read it personally.
Okay, if you wrote it like that, where you don't have the overarching command or you don't know the overarching situation, and you understand that, like, a lot of the times, PDF in particular would not be informed what they're fighting. They would get an idea what they're fighting later, but if it's their first time encountering Tyranids, they're not going to know their NIDs. If you did it that way, where it was focused on a smaller scale unit in a larger scale battle who's not being informed what they're actually fighting, it's only the alien invaders, and then revealed things about them as the battle progressed, like the living ammunition and a medic desperately trying to get a wound to stay closed, not realizing that there's still one of those worms inside of his friend and he hasn't found it yet. Things like that. You could continuously reveal the horror, and to the audience, anyone who's a Warhammer veteran, they're probably going to recognize it's Tyranids early on, but to the audience, the general audience, and to people who don't have a lot of in-depth knowledge of Tyranids, they won't know what it is. They will only know it's an unknown alien that the PDF is tasked with keeping the planet safe from. So to me, you keep you can keep Warhammer Mysteries by making it about individuals and making it a much smaller scale thing, especially in terms of who in the chain of command we're talking about, because random sergeant isn't gonna know, but a Space Marine obviously will know who they're fighting.
Yeah, that's true, because the problem is when you've got these major incursions is you've always then got the Guard or the Astartes involved before too long, and the Guard will be told. They might not know what they're doing, but they will have been told. And the Marines know what they're doing. So the mystery goes away pretty quickly for them.
I tell you what is actually a really good story, which I don't think a lot of people have read, just purely because of how old it was and from where it's from. Do you remember the old Warhammer Monthly comics? The really old comic series from back in 2nd edition?
I'm aware they existed.
I've read a couple of them, but not a lot.
Because in the very first issue, there's a standalone story in that called Predator and Prey, which is like on a primitive, like, feral world, like in the Imperium, like right on the very fringes of the Imperium. And there's like a group of local hunters who've learned that something in the jungle is like slowly killing off their game and like it's attacking outlying villages. So they assemble a group of hunters to try and hunt down and kill whatever animal this is. And what they encounter is a lictor. And basically it's a group of like feral hunt, like primitive tribesmen against a lictor. And it's a great little story.
See, to me, that would be like literally the Warhammer version of the Predator movie, where yeah, they're the best guys there is, but they are way outclassed.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But they don't think it's actually an alien. They view it as like, like an evil spirit kind of thing from their local culture. So it's like, it's great. And then they end up killing the lictor, and it's like it's a sacrifice that proves, it's a victory that proves we're worthy in the eyes of the Sky Emperor, which is their version of the Emperor, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then it's revealed like, oh yeah, we found out there's a hive mind signal in this world. Yeah, well, it's doomed because there's a huge hive fleet coming that way, and yeah, there's no way to save it. So yeah, they're fucked. The end.
Because of course it's 40k, and at the end of the day, everyone has to be screwed.
Exactly. Right, next question.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, was that it?
Oh, that's it? Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about what we actually talked about in the episode, but there's actually not a lot in terms of questions.
Oh, fair enough.
But yeah, it is interesting because there's a lot of different things going on. About, obviously, we talked a lot about the Tau and about the Votan and the Sisters loophole, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why there weren't a lot of questions. Maybe we just talked about so much stuff that people are like, oh, I want to talk about what we actually talked about, rather than...
Which is fair enough, obviously.
That's fair enough. That happens.
Yeah, so that shows you made an interesting podcast.
Hey, we did something right for a change.
We did something right for a change.
Aw, do you two want a ribbon?
Funny. But
I'm a horrible
the interesting point, though, that is made there about making Xenos factions interesting and about, like, taking away the knowledge, it makes me think, because in terms of Tau, because obviously that's the faction, I know Orc novels are very well written, for the most part. Sometimes they're just made out to be dumb idiots, sure, but that works as the big bad boss enemy of the week. They're a really good enemy of the week antagonist to have, and when they're written as the protagonist, such as when Mike Brooks gets his hands on them, they can be excellent.
I still maintain that Uftat Blackhawk is the least orky sounding name for a 40k orc. It sounds something like more like a Warcraft orc would have.
Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to the Tau, like, I just think about all the novels where Tau have a major role and or are protagonist, and you've got the Shadow Sun novel, which I know you have emotions about.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. There's the Farsight novels, which are amazing, but are also written by Phil Kelly, and Phil Kelly doesn't write very much. And then you've got Damocles, which is good.
Fire Warrior.
Which one?
Firecast and Fire Warrior, in fact.
Yeah, Firecast was good as that same idea of low-level operation, gritty on the ground.
Yeah, the funny thing about Firecast was, like, despite being advertised as a Tau novel, it's like the Tau have hardly anything to fucking do with it. It was more about, the Confederate army in space getting the shit kicked out of them by fungus-infected Kroot.
So, yeah, it's just interesting about writing...
And then there's that weird time travel element in it. It was like, what the fuck is going on? It's gone completely batshit off the rails. It's like if the book was written by David Lynch.
Well,
I mean that as a compliment, by the way.
But, yeah, either way, just... It makes me think, because Tau are really hard to write. I understand people don't necessarily want to take them on, but the majority of the time, the Tau are really hard to write because their Firecast, when they're on the battlefield, are just sneaky tactical enemy of the week rather than runny smashy enemy of the week. You don't have the same level of bullshit trickery that you get from the Eldar because almost everyone who writes the Eldar is obsessed with bullshit shenanigans all the time, which is logical, it's the Eldar. But the Tau sort of fill a role of clever enemy of the week when used in literature as the antagonist, which is rarely. But then when they're protagonist, or you've got elements where they're heavily involved, like Deathwatch Shadowbreaker is one where it has a fair bit of Tau in it. Sort of trying to get across this system and the way the casts operate is really hard. And how to do it when you're talking purely from the perspective of the Firecast is hard, which is why Crisis of Faith worked well, because you had Watercast elements sprinkled through it. You had Farsight himself, but then other elements as well, that when you're doing it at the Tau, you've almost got to show the multifaceted aspects of the casts and show them differently. But then you've got the risk of like what happened with Dawn of Fire, the first one, Avenging Sun, which I know you really didn't like, Rem, because it jumped perspectives constantly, and it was really hard to keep track of.
I think an interesting novel for the Tau would be written, and correct me if I'm wrong, Earthcast is the technicians, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I think an interesting novel would be if you took a spin from how the really badly portrayed novel that's basically mostly made up stuff from a guy who used to go out and repair destroyed tanks during World War II. If you took an Earthcast person as the main character and wrote it from the perspective of someone who has to constantly fix Farsight's enclaves, busted up gear, and has to figure out what happened to it and how it happened, and therefore that's how he uses his knowledge of how his machines work in order to get it to fix. So he has to go to the Firecast and go to the Aircast to get intelligence reports on, okay, so here's what happened to this crisis suit. Here's what it went through, and then he can go, oh, well, this is why it's not working.
The challenge, just from a pure Farsight perspective, the challenge there is that person has always been, until I think they've become an AI now, was Ovesa, Farsight's closest friend and a Riptide pilot, despite being Earthcast, so didn't really apply there. But in general, that then implies that the Tau don't talk to each other. And that... Oh,
no, it's not implying that they don't talk to each other. It's just he is going around having to talk to the other cast members. And they have clearly different ways of communicating and talking about things. Like a Firecast person is going to be very direct, kind of like a guy straight out of the army, versus a Watercast person who's going to elegantly put things down, whereas an Aircast person might brag up what they did in the action as opposed to answering the question directly.
Maybe. I think also probably one of the places they need to write in more detail is from the perspective of an ethereal, because they have that oversight and that sort of need to talk to each other, because generally they try and stop the casts from talking to one another, and certainly from intermingling socially, because the more they mingle, the less defined and streamlined they become. So it might be that idea might be better placed coming from the perspective of an ethereal almost.
Mm-hmm.
And either way, it's just something that question made me think about, was how can we write Tau better? Or what could we do to write Tau better?
There you go then. Well, given the time and given how humid it is, we might call it there for this evening if there's no other questions or anything like that, or nothing else anyone wants to discuss.
Nothing comes to mind as something we've missed.
Not off the top of my head, because I came here fully expecting to be to be asked a bunch of questions, and instead I just felt like I was just given a seat at the table, which is nicer than what I expected.
Well, I'm glad that we exceeded your expectations.
So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much to Fiaura for joining us this episode.
Hi. So I should have the Halflings episode for my own podcast out for Warhammer Fantasy on Sunday, which is 2 days from when we recorded this.
This won't be out till the Wednesday.
So probably by the time you guys are hearing this, Halflings is already out, and we're recording Orcs this week, because it seemed like if we were going to go for the humorous things, we may as well go ahead and go for the funniest.
Yeah, stinks and the doubly do and all that.
So, Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
This has been Neve from Tactica Imperialis.
Hi, this is Fiaura.
And we'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.